just waiting to have a quorum here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 task force members. We need 6 to make quorum, so it might take us just another minute. Let's hold off and see. I know Sophie isn't able to make it today, and I think Dawn was a maybe. So let's just wait another minute and see if we can have our numbers. All right, Nolan makes 6, so we've made our quorum. We can go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and start with introductions. I'll start. I'm Meredith Warner. I'm one of the interim co-chairs of the task force, along with Zach Hughes, and I also work at Good Samaritan Haven, and I will pass it to Sal.
I'm Sal Alfano. I'm the city's District 2 Council representative to the committee, and I will pass it to Kelly.
Thanks for your patience as I come off mute. Kelly Murphy, Assistant City Manager, Staff Liaison to this committee. And if I'm passing it to somebody, how about Beverly?
Hi, I'm Bev Allen. I'm a resident of Montpelier and a member of this task force. And I'll pass it to Marty.
Hi, I'm Marty Roberts. I'm a resident of Montpelier and a member of this task force. I will pass it to Jay.
Jay Voorhees. I'm the pastor at Trinity United Methodist. I'm also a resident of Montpelier. And I'll pass to Miss Roden.
I'm Tori Rodine. I live in Montpelier. I'm a member of the task force, and I'm in a car somewhere just south of Albany, so I may disappear abruptly if we lose the cell signal.
Chief Nordenson, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, Eric Nordenson from the Montpelier Police Department, and I just come to help any way I can.
Thanks for being here. Sophie, would you like to go ahead? Sophie, are you there? Not hearing from Sophie, I will pass it to Nolan. Did you introduce yourself yet?
Hi, my name's Nolan Carver. I'm a resident of Montpelier and a member of this homelessness task force. And I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Nolan. I'm sorry, y'all. I was trying to figure out the agenda, so I wasn't totally paying attention. So I'm going to call on some more people to introduce yourself, but if you're already gone, just say so. I apologize. Stan, did you? I think you already went.
I did not. Stan Brinkerhoff, resident of District 2, here representing just individual interests, but also a member of the Montpelier Housing Committee.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Clem, did you want to introduce yourself? Clem writes in the chat, resident on Main Street, not a member of the task force, listening in today. Thanks for being here, Clem. I appreciate it. I have someone on the phone. That's Dawn. Dawn, do you want to go ahead? Dawn says by text that she's here, but can't figure out how to unmute. So Dawn, thanks for being here and listening. And if you want to pop out and oh, there you go. We've got you now. You just had it for a second. We got
I think you have someone else. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I think you have someone else on the phone because I have not put anything in chat.
That was
so
Sophie.
that was
I'm really
Oh,
sorry.
cool.
I can't
Okay.
figure out how to do anything on my phone, but I'm here and muted. So sorry about that, Meredith.
That's okay.
Sophie, *6 should mute you and unmute you.
Okay, now I see the little things at the bottom that tell me what to do, but I couldn't find them before. So I'm just going to be quiet. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for being here, Sophie. Dawn?
Dawn Little, Montpelier resident, task force member, outreach for Good Samaritan Haven.
Thank you. Zach, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hang on. Zach Hughes, task force member and community support here in Montpelier.
Thanks, Zach. Did anyone else not introduce themselves yet? Okay, introductions are done. Next is agenda. I just looked at although I did send, at least I thought I sent an updated agenda. It looks like maybe the one that was warned, and I don't know if that was a miscommunication on my part. It may have been, includes budget recommendations, which is the agenda from last week. I don't know. Kelly, do you have the agenda that was warned in front of you by any chance?
I do, and you could amend it, if you
Okay.
want to modify the items.
Yeah, so it does, the one that was warned does have the budget recommendations discussion on. Okay, so I posted in the chat for you to see what was warned. My recommendation, or I would move that we go ahead and remove number 8, which is the budget recommendation discussion, because that's a historic leftover from last week. Does anyone want to join me with a second on that?
I'm sorry. I would be willing to join you. I just wanted to hear that again. You said from last week.
Or the last meeting, yeah, we discussed the budget and
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm willing to second that. Or
Any-
I'm sorry. Motion. I would motion. Or what are we doing here?
You're good. You're good with a second. I'll invite people.
Seconded.
Okay, I'll invite folks, any conversation or discussion about that change to remove the historic number 8 budget recommendation discussion from the agenda. All right, let's, and then so the remaining agenda is introductions, review and approve the agenda, review and approve minutes, public comment, task force administration, updates, announcements, and adjourn. So that's the agenda we're voting on. Can I see a show of hands to pass that agenda that I just repeated aloud?
Aye.
Thanks.
Aye.
Good. Nolan?
Excuse me. Aye.
Awesome. Thank you. So the agenda with number 8 crossed off has passed. Next, we're on to minutes. I apologize that I did not forward them, so we don't have them. They are produced and Kelly put them together for us, but I failed to send them along to you in a timely manner. So if it's I'm going to make a motion that we go ahead and approve those at our next meeting, and I will send them forward.
I will
Zach,
second it.
thank you.
Thank
Does
you.
any comments on waiting to approve minutes at the next meeting? Can I see a show of hands to pass these meeting minutes to the next meeting?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. And again, I apologize. Now is the time for public comment. Is anyone here that would like to share anything with the task force during the public comment period? All right.
Excuse me, I guess I just have one comment to make.
Okay.
I met a fellow named James on State Street the other day. He was politely panhandling with a sign, and he described himself as being homeless with his pregnant girlfriend in the forest for months. And I acknowledge that there are new family shelters to look forward to, apparently in Montpelier as well as Waterbury and Chittenden County. I use these moments to engage the public to kind of circulate the goodwill and the faith, because it takes a lot of encouragement. I'm sure that one conversation gave him a degree of encouragement, at least I hope. So I'm just here to gain more information so that we can be resourceful and resilient. Thank you.
Thanks, Nolan. Dawn?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I guess it's been a while since I sent this number out, but Good Samaritan Outreach does have a phone number that you can give to anyone, and if they leave a message, we may or may not be able to help them with a place to stay, but we can give them equipment if they need it, if they qualify. We can also refer them to other existing resources. So I want to make sure I get that number out to you. I do not have the ability to put it in the chat.
I'll look it up and store it in my contacts after this meeting's over.
Dawn, do you want to just speak it aloud and I'll put it into the chat for you?
That'd be great. Thank you. It's 815-714-8686. And if the person could leave a message with their contact information, if they have any, then Osa or myself will get back to them as soon as we're able to, at the very least with referrals and information and possibly more. Thanks.
Thanks, Dawn. I just put that in the chat for you. Stan, go ahead.
Awesome, thanks. Just I'll talk about an individual case and then kind of pull it back to a context, and hopefully it'll make sense. There was a member of our community that experienced a fire. I think it was over the weekend, that potentially displaced them from where they had been living, down past the Dairy Cream. And I think there was folks who were genuinely concerned about that individual and didn't know how to best help them through that situation. I think some members of this group here helped connect me with who the right folks were to get them help. But I'm not sure if it's clear to community members, how folks get help for certain situations, who to reach out to for help. And I'll just share that, I don't know if there's a way we can help provide guidance to folks who want to help, what is available, who to contact, who takes kind of point on some of these concerns. Because I don't know that it's clear to some of us who maybe don't work in a day-to-day. And
Right.
Thanks, Zach, for making sure that individual was safe that evening.
Thank you. And yeah, I agree with you. I think we can put it out more.
Thank you for that input, Stan. It's also really important, I just would like to mention again, if you do find someone, it really helps us if you refer them to us, partly because there are places that are better suited to people than others, and we try to keep track of that. So it's great, if you're tempted to tell them, oh, you can camp there. I've heard people are camping there. It really works a lot better if you can send them through a central place, so that we make sure that people are compatible and that it's an accessible place for them. Thank you.
I'd also just like to name too that I think that this what Stan's pointing out and the response from Zach and Dawn is also about the community outreach piece that we've been talking about, trying to form a subcommittee around. I know that subcommittee hasn't met yet, but that feels like an essential project to create some community communications about what to do if you want to help. And I think talking with Dawn and Zach and OSA about street outreach, talking with public safety about kind of like when is the call a public safety call versus an outreach call would also be useful. I don't know, Chief, if you have anything you want to add from that standpoint, just in terms of community members knowing how to do outreach, if it's beyond the scope of outreach workers and might pledge into the public safety arena.
I'm just actually sharing with Stan all our resources that we have available on our website, and then the Washington County Survivors Guide is right there. And that's all. This is all part of a much larger discussion, as well as we're trying to, bridge some gaps in state budgets that have cut a lot of services for us. So we're trying to figure all that stuff out again too. So my feeling is whenever someone feels that they need to call the police, it's not for us to judge whether that's the right or wrong decision. That's their individual decision, and if they choose to call us, then that's their best option.
Let's say I have Dawn's hand up and then Tori. Thank you, Chief.
And point of order, I just want to make sure folks are aware we're still in public comment.
Let's have, hold on 1 second, my computer's acting funny. Let's have one more comment from Tori, and then I think we can come back to this at Task Force Administration, because I think it has to do with our community outreach folks and communications work that we've been talking about how to do and how to get started. So Tori, do you have a comment? Tori, you're on mute. If you're on a phone, it's *6 to unmute.
And I think she was in a car or something today. So, I don't know.
While we're waiting.
I think I got it.
Yep, you do.
This doesn't belong to public comment either. I just wanted to say the four of us who are on who said we wanted to be that subcommittee are all here today. So could we either figure out today when we're going to meet, or could you get back to me with some possible times, please?
Absolutely, Tori.
That's a really nice segue into Task Force Administration. Can folks remind me if you were tasked with being on that outreach subcommittee, or that you volunteered?
I'll remind you that I volunteered.
I'm on the subcommittee too, and I did reach out to Tori actually this morning, responding to her email. So hopefully we can get together soon.
Great.
I'm also, and we just had a ragingly busy day yesterday and last night, so I have not reached out yet.
Yeah.
All right, thanks everyone. I'm just making a note of that. that you all, and I guess, you know, do we want to, for the folks who are on that sub team, do you want to have any further conversation about this piece, which I think is really an important piece, given the uptick in unsheltered homelessness in the region, how to best communicate with community members who want to be helpful if they come across someone who needs support? Or do you feel like you want to hold
Well,
that
this
till your
is
subcommittee?
Zach, and I will make a real quick comment. I agree with the chief about not judging why people are calling the police. Certainly, various reasons. I think we look at it as an education piece when we go out there. You know, and when we're talking with folks, but there are times when, yes, you do need to call the police. You know, and I'd also like to thank the chief for the openness on the website, all the stuff there. That's very helpful information. So I just want to thank the chief for that. Thank you.
Yeah, just a note too that, you know, any kind of resource guide or communication historically has been really hard to maintain because resources tend to move around and shift, and times change and locations change and availability of certain services change. So I think it would be great to get something, a baseline kind of up and going again. I know pre-flood, we had a much better sense of where things were. And I think some of this communication didn't quite recover from the flood because things moved so dramatically. And then we've kind of rolled into just a really challenging time. So I would say for that sub team, that's a really important part of the conversation as a baseline right now, is to just and I think that whatever could be produced is also very helpful for street outreach to have on hand, for folks who need it, but also for community members who might need or want guidance. So I'll look forward to, I would love to see you all be able to get together between now and our next meeting and maybe present something. So if that feels like a reasonable time frame, that's great. If, you know, if you need to push back on that, let me know what you think your time frame is, or if we need to figure out another way to get it done.
I'm sure we can. I mean, I hope we can. That's about 2 weeks out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our next meeting. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I brought this up last week and we have a lot more. Oh, sorry, Dawn, did you have another comment?
I'm sorry, just a quick comment here. I also wanted to say that the desire to have people contact us, or when appropriate, the police, is also involves safety concerns for members of the public who may not know who they're dealing with. I think the majority of the people out there are perfectly safe, but in addition to their privacy concerns, we have a lot of people from out of the area that we don't know, and sometimes it's not safe to put a complete stranger in your car or invite them into your home. So it really, you know, we hope for everyone's safety that people will consult us or perhaps the police if they want to become really involved in helping someone. Thank you.
I have a quick addition to the admin side, Meredith. I haven't seen the email yet, but Ken advised me that he was resigning.
From the task force.
That's correct.
Yes, I sent it along yesterday.
So I would like to just take a minute and thank him for his service on this task force. And I know from the background he will be there. And he encourages as well. And I thank him for his service.
Yeah, same, Zach. Ken's been a real force on this committee and has really been a great advocate, and I know will continue to be. And I think he'll continue to be a resource for this committee as needed. So everybody feel free to reach out to him individually and just share a gratitude with him. That'd be lovely. Dawn? Your hand is up. Did you need to say anything?
Residual, sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Zach, I appreciate you bringing that up also because I think it's important that we tend to possible recruitment for this task force. How are folks feeling about our numbers, where we'd like to be, participation capacity? Did we want to ask to work with Evelyn on an announcement to the community that we're seeking new members? Thoughts?
Hi,
ahead.
Sophie. Can you remind me how many people we have now? And I feel like participation's been really great the last couple of months.
Yep.
I'm sorry I didn't raise my hand.
Yeah, we have, without Ken, we have 8 members now. Tori?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. One thing we could consider is let's recruit the 2 people who keep devoting their time to coming to the meetings, even though they're not technically in the task force, which would be Jay and Stan. And also, I want to second what Sophie said about I've also really been struck the last 3 months or so that we've had such active participation by people on the task force and by other community members. I'm really happy about that.
Yeah. Thanks, Tori. Jay and Stan, Tori just suggested maybe you'd be interested in joining our team more formally. Do you have any interest there, or do you want to take some time to think about it? Just want to kind of check in and see.
Stan, go ahead.
I prefer to be a community member, and join where possible. I honestly, the during the day is really difficult for me, and I've got kids, so the evenings are also equally difficult. So I can't guarantee the time. When I make it, it's because it's, it works in my schedule.
Thank you. We appreciate having you here. Jay?
I'm still trying to figure out where I am. And so at this point, I don't think it would be good, but maybe down the line.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jay, I'd say down the line for sure. Don't forget us.
I won't.
I wonder go ahead, Sal.
I'm just wondering how many positions we have on the committee. Does anybody know? I mean, we have 8 members, you say, but you were hoping for 6 for a quorum, so that points to what, 12 positions
11.
or 11? So there's 3 open positions. Okay.
I'm wondering too, if we, I feel like I'm wondering, are there any specific voices or expertise that we think would be particularly useful to make, pointed invitations at this point, to folks who might be really helpful? I mean, I would say, while we have really good participation online at the meetings, I think that we could use some extra capacity around actually lifting a few things into existence, and follow through on the in-between weeks. And I know and I don't say that as a criticism. Lives are busy. I know all of you are community members with very active lives, but I wonder if there's anybody out there with a specific expertise and energy that might be beneficial, and in terms of what we're trying to get done right now. Tori?
I'm also I'm wondering how I can't remember how we ended up with technically having 11 members. I joined the task force at a time when it had suddenly expanded, and there were a lot of people, and then it shrank when a lot of people, a lot of those people ended up leaving the task force. And the good news is right now we have I think a solid group of people who are showing up. And one question would be, is 11 actually a good number for this task force, or is 8 people, all of who participate in meetings and all of who do work, actually a really good number for the task force? Because what we don't want is to just say let's have more numbers for the sake of numbers, and then people not actually participating, hypothetically.
Thanks, Tori. Dawn?
Yeah, I think part of what drove the desire to expand our numbers originally was a need to have enough people to make a quorum. But of course, the more people you have, the larger, your quorum needs to be. So that ended up being kind of self-defeating. So I don't know whether there are other reasons to want more people, and there might be specific characteristics that we want, but I do know that it was partially quorum driven.
I guess I'd like to hear from you all from the process standpoint. Do you want to revisit this next week and everybody just kind of sit with it? Or do you want to try and move forward on something right now? Sophie, go ahead.
I was thinking back to our discussion about the budget and the things that we need, and we identified a number of areas that we thought would be really useful for us. And I just can't think of everything that included right now, but I agree with you, Meredith, there might be some specific skills that would be really helpful to have on the task force. So maybe if we can't do it today, maybe at the next meeting, we can look back, because I think that was a discussion where we talked about, someone who can do research, or someone who I just can't remember. So, but yes, I think it would be good if we have specific skills that we need.
Yeah. Meredith, I was trying to lower my hand, but actually I wanted up to say more thing about this.
Go ahead then, Tori.
I think we can also think demographics. I talked with OPME about possibly joining the committee, and she had said that she was sort of at the end of the focusing on this issue, but I still think it would not be a bad idea to ask her. And I also think there's a significant demographic, which is people under 35 or 40 who I think have been affected by and active in this situation. And that would be another place to be looking. I think there have been people who've been fairly public about with the hunger strike and stuff like that, and that we could also talk to some of those people.
How about we leave it at this? I'm going to put it on the agenda for next week to go back, particularly thinking about if there are.
In 2 weeks, right?
Oh yeah, sorry. Next meeting. I always say that. What I mean is next meeting, not this week. Our next meeting, and let's talk about it again. But I think in the meantime, if you meet somebody that seems like they're a great candidate and they're really interested, like Tori did, there are open positions, and you can certainly point them to the city's website. So let's leave it that for this week, unless folks want to discuss it further.
Meredith, quick question. Do they
Yep.
have to live in Montpelier?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
I think so.
No, Erica Ryle was on the task force.
Yeah.
I think
Oh, right.
Yeah.
All right.
I think there was a preference, but not a requirement.
Yeah, I'm remembering that now too. Go ahead, Sal.
I just wanted to toss in that we at one point discussed some collaboration with the Housing Committee.
Yep.
We might find a willing soul on that committee who would commit to another committee. So, something to think about if you know people personally.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I have a quick question for
Uh-huh.
Kelly. So I haven't gotten around to it. Are we, I think, are some of us up to date on our appointment?
Let me look at the chart real quick.
Well, you have the chart too, Meredith. Okay. I seem to remember maybe me and I need to get around to it.
Oh yeah. Zach, 10/26/24. Looks like is the date you were finishing. Yeah,
right,
so you need to do yours.
Okay.
That would be Dawn as well then.
Okay.
You're at the same date. Do you do an actual reapplication, Kelly? Is that how it works? Yeah. Okay. I will put in the notes to forward that to both of you as a reminder if you're assuming you're interested.
All right. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm still one hand typing here still. I have one more thing on task force administration, and some of you were here for this last week and not the rest of you, and that it was that I wanted to propose that we let go of the third Wednesday of the month. It only happens occasionally if we have a 5-week month where the Wednesday is the overlap. it's hard. It's been challenging on my schedule. I imagine for some of you, it's the same. Just wanted to open a conversation, and if people were open to it, someone could make a motion that we do that. I'm just under the assumption that we are empowered to make that change. Sal or Kelly, do you know any reason why we couldn't make that change, or do we need to just vote on something and send it to the council and request that change from a process standpoint?
I think you could make the change
Okay.
through just this membership.
Mhm. Thoughts on that? Strong feelings one way or another? Go ahead, Sal.
I will move that we change the committee meeting schedule to the first and third Wednesday of each month only.
Is that would be slightly different than having it every other week, correct? Yeah, because some months it's like that. Have we considered having it every other week? That's just a question before we vote otherwise.
I don't think we can make that drastic a change because then it will start interfering with other city committees. I think what we could do is we can change from what Sal said to just first and third, and eliminate that fifth Wednesday that only happens periodically.
Okay.
Does somebody want to second that motion?
Second that. This is
Let's second it.
Zach seconds. Any conversation, concerns?
Great idea.
All right, let's go ahead and go ahead, Zach.
I tried to vote.
Oh, you're pre-voting. Okay.
Pre-voting.
All right. So we are voting on changing our schedule to be the first and third Wednesday of each month, eliminating the fifth. Can I see a show of hands who would like to make this change?
Aye.
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 Sophie, Dawn, Nolan, Tori, where are you at that on that? Any abstentions?
I'm voting for it.
Okay. Any no votes? All right, so it passes unanimously. We can now, and I will take it upon myself to be in contact with Evelyn to go ahead and change the website, and I will also let Mary know as well that we've made that change, so they will expect, they can expect something different on their end. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that. All right. Now we're to updates. This is a time where we can do general updates, city council, motel, street outreach, overflow, legislative, community sport, which we kind of has a broad term, which could encompass the lunch program. And we also have public safety here with us today if they want to provide any updates. Does someone want to start?
Yeah, this is Zach. I'm gonna kind of start with that. The shelters, two of them, to my knowledge, have opened. I have an individual who's already having a hard time because they're trying to get a shelter exemption because of their child who has behavioral issues. I just bring it up to the task force to make them understand, to get y'all to understand the dynamics that happen here. And the state is requiring, from what I could see, if you can go in that shelter, they're going to call you up. They're going to say you need to go in the shelter, or you lose your voucher. You'll lose the voucher, and you'll have a penalization of about 30 days if you refuse. So this is what we're running into, and advocates are having to kick into gear. That's what I see. And I would also add that on the outreach side, we are working with a very small crew of people, and it became apparent to me last night while working with somebody, and I got really frustrated about this. Just the resources are just not there. So we do what we can with what we've got. And we will be glad to share the number, of course, but just as you give it out, just understand that We have about 3 or 4 people working on the outreach side, or 3 on the outreach side. And I realized that when I tried to ask for help last night, it wasn't there. So, I worry about things like that. Worry about camping restrictions, not being able to put somebody somewhere, even though I'm out there in a scooter trying to do it. It's just not practical. I just want to lay that out so as we go along. Thank you. And that's all I have.
The other, yeah, I'm going to add a tiny bit. The other thing about, no, I'm not talking about permanent camping here, but I'm just talking about a large number of people need to find a location after hours when there is no transportation, and when some of us have been working all day. So I spent at least over 2.5 hours yesterday trying to find a spot for one person, and eventually we found a temporary solution, but it becomes less safe, less practical, and there's no transportation, obviously. So hoping that there's a place where people can land just for one night, and then the next day we could try to find them a more permanent solution. And also, I wanted to clarify with Zach or Meredith, the situation with the penalty with the family shelter. If you refuse to go there when you hear of what it is or where it is, or if you go and it does not work out for your family and you incur a 30-day or whatever penalty, does this not also apply to getting a motel voucher during that 30 days?
I wanted to clarify that. I believe I was hoping this family would go try it out because I think that they needed more evidence around this. I just don't think the department is buying it, and they're not willing to take a very small doctor's note. So what I take it to be is the hotels would be impacted with this, and the I didn't know if you had something. I'm trying to remember if you had something else there, Don. But the other thing I wanted to add is there are cases out there that are unique, and we had one last night. They didn't want to fill out the paperwork to go into shelter, and they have what I consider to be viable reasons, but we don't have a way to address this due to federal stuff. So when you have a federal level situation, we have no control over that. Thank you.
Does anybody have questions about the family shelters? That I know it's complicated, and maybe Zach and myself and Dawn could answer the best we can. Go ahead, Bev.
Yeah, so what is the first step if there's a family that's considering going there?
They can call economic services, I think, right, Zach?
But once
Yeah.
if they make that contact just to inquire about what the situation is and whether it might be appropriate for their family, does that mean that on deciding it isn't, they will incur the penalty? Or I'd like to know at what point that happens, because I feel like this is the whole thing, like the whole thing with the motels has been for years, and which has actually gotten better the last few years. But just, someone, I feel like should be able to determine what the situation is without losing their chance at any kind of shelter for 30 days, especially a family.
This family was called by economic services because they were already in hotel. They were about to wrap up their 80-day stint, but the department decided to pull it early and say, hey, you need to go over here. We have it, go. And she said she had a child with behavioral issues, and it was a viable issue. And they pushed back and said, well, you don't have it you won't be served for 30 days for the hotel side, whatever. And so she's actively appealing. There's appeals, so you can appeal and you can say, there's forms you have to fill out. That's the thing. So, like, you have to fill out the shelter exemption and all that. But if you straight out say no to them, like she did, they're going to say, then you're refusing and we're going to penalize you. And that's how they work.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is pre-COVID, it could often take a minimum of several days to get that shelter exemption form completed because you had to go to a doctor, you had to go to the shelter, and Good Samaritan was able to cut that time down radically, but I don't know what that is at this point, whether you still have to make all those different appointments and stops before you can get the form approved by X services.
You mean
anyway,
for the exemption?
Yeah, for the exemption, because
yeah.
I helped someone through it, and with my car and my full-time assistance, it took us 4 days to jump through all the hoops to get the exemption. So I don't know. I mean, it sounds like you can address some of these questions.
Yeah, so I think it's really important to collect some of what, well, first of all, for folks on this team to know that like having a new shelter stood up does not necessarily mean a perfect flow of people from, you know, outside to being indoors. There are a lot of, you know, for instance, I know that at the very least, there's a 24-hour waiting period because folks have to be screened for SA and violent crime because it's a family shelter. So that's, you know, one hurdle at best case. That's a 24-hour wait. As far as exemptions go, I think maybe Dawn, we can talk, and Zach, we could talk offline, and I could talk with Brenda Siegel about it. She's really an expert at navigating some of this, particularly when people have
family to Brenda Siegel. It was
yeah.
funny. Said, well, actually, she does better than I do with this stuff. It's like a pit bull. So,
well,
you
and
know,
she might be able to give you all some advice. But the other thing is I think it's useful to provide our state partners with any challenges that we're meeting with when we're communicating with folks on the street who might be good candidates for the family shelter if they have an open bed. And that fear of penalty and getting to the bottom of whether or not that's in fact the case would be really great, because you know, people want to know where they're going to land. They want to know if I'm living in my car in Montpelier with my child and I'm going to be taking a shelter in Waterbury, a basic question is, how will my child get to school, you know, or something like that, right? Like
that was a very question. Yeah.
Right. And we have McKinney-Vento liaisons, but I think knowing that all the connections are being made and if anybody we're working with or you all are working with is having a challenge with something like that, we want to be able to let our partners know so that they can help us close those gaps, and we can also help close them in the meantime. So let's just keep collecting those. I will just let folks know it is for people who haven't been following as much, it is Waterbury and Williston that are currently open. And I only know what I read in press last week, which it sounded like they were hoping to get those up to capacity by the end of last week, which I'm not sure if that happened or not. So go ahead, Sal.
Well, as I'm listening to this, it seems obvious that the state designed its program without consulting anybody who knew anything about working with homeless people.
Absolutely did. Yeah.
So what I'm thinking is, you know, the city, again, we're between a rock and a hard place on this, but to the extent that we're thinking about the issue and planning for some eventuality that may occur, you know, depending on what the state does and so on, I think it would be really useful for this committee to, you know, come up with a checklist of items just like this, like, you know, transportation of kids to school is an issue. And I'd like to go, where possible, to go beyond the checklist with any solutions that have, you know, worked in the past and that sort of thing. Otherwise, what we'll end up with is, you know, something that's obviously as ineffective and hopefully not as expensive as what the state is doing. But it seems like they're really just missing the boat here again. And to the extent that this committee has some expertise in all of those areas, I mean, I find the knowledge I gain on these calls about what's actually happening on the street to be invaluable. And that's what the city needs to know if we're going to contemplate any sort of action with regard to camping or, you know, what facilities, whatever it is. We need to know in advance so that we don't run into these problems. I mean, we won't catch them all, but it's something this committee could probably make some headway on.
Kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, this the family shelter issue, which is another thing that I'm seeing as, I guess, a byproduct of having more people come outside, is I'm seeing more contact between helpful members of the public and people who are living outside. And while that's heartening in some ways, it's also really concerning to me. So, I mean, the more people we have wandering around who don't know where they're going to sleep tonight, the more people get involved with trying to transport them, trying to feed them, you know, trying to help them move their stuff to where they're going. And I just, you know, that is very concerning to me. Thanks.
I know, Don, I had heard, you know, from you around certain safety concerns, and I had someone mention safety concerns to me this morning to try to bring backup out there when I'm out there. But, you know, so yeah, it's definitely valid.
We can support each other to a degree over the phone, but when people in the public are out there without any knowledge of the people or the situation or the resources, and they, you know, and they want to help, which is great, that just cannot be a good thing. So
that's a mixed message. That's a pretty mixed message, though, right?
What, to help people, but be careful? I don't know.
Well, no. I mean, on one hand, we're saying things like, you know, not everyone on the bike path is dangerous, and we shouldn't categorize as all as homeless people, and we should be, you know, open our arms in the community and support people. On the other hand, it seems as though we're saying, okay, but don't do these things, right? And that line between, you know, being able to buy someone a coffee or a meal and assume, you know, one time or two times, you know, good intentions, but don't give someone a car ride, like don't pick up a hitchhiker, or do you need to assert they're homeless?
Exactly. I think it's to some degree, it's the same kind of common sense that you would use with people who are not unsheltered. You know, you don't go out to a restaurant and have dinner and invite the guy sitting next to you to sleep on your couch. You know, I mean, there's a certain degree of common sense involved. I mean, I don't want to, you know, diminish people's desire to help, and it is wonderful when they do. But again, the degree of common sense, you know, is necessary. Just like you would use in situations with other people.
I feel like we're getting a little off track. This feels very much like it lands in the community outreach group's purview. I would say that, like, people who are experiencing homelessness are as unique as all of us are. They are individuals with individual needs, individual challenges, you know, and there is a moment at which we have to trust members of the community to take reasonable and safe risks with others if they are so compelled. Like, I don't think we need to say, like, nobody talk to anybody who you think might be unsheltered. That's not, I don't think that's what Dawn's suggesting either. I think it's inviting people to walk into the situation with,
well, I understand. I just want to quickly say, I think the reality is that it really is up to the community member to engage, but be aware, like I am when I'm out at night, is beware that there may be, you know, a situation where you might be told to F off. And I don't mean to put it that way, but that's reality. Sometimes that happens. So I think we're just saying caution. That's all. It's nothing. We're not saying it.
Yeah, I think my original point was intended to be that the more direct route we have to even just an overnight situation, if people knew, hey, this is a place I can be tonight and we'll work on it tomorrow, we would probably have fewer people wandering around looking for help from the public, who is understandably concerned because frankly, it really sucks when you have someone wandering around who doesn't know where they're going to sleep tonight. So, and I don't know, I just see this as a slightly different issue than the longer term space. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Dawn. I want to go back to something Sal was suggesting around what we're communicating to council and what he learns from being in these meetings, and want to just offer, if it's agreeable to the group, that I'd be happy to meet with Sal and start to kind of refine some ways we can meaningfully report to the council some of what we talk about here, especially as it relates to state partners and how we can find more resources and support for folks in our community. Does that work for folks? Or does anyone else want to be part of that conversation without making too much work of it? Sal, thoughts? Oh, you're muted.
I welcome that. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Go ahead, Tori.
No, I have my hand raised about something else, actually. I think,
Okay.
yeah, I do think that, it sounds like, I think the most important thing is, it's less about refining things and more about what is it that Sal is getting from this that he's bringing back to the council, which may sometimes include also bringing people from the task force back to the council. But that's not why I have the actually, just one thinking.
Okay. Nolan?
Yes, I would be very interested in attending those meetings or joining those conversations. I find them so fascinating.
Great.
Meredith, this is Sophie. I would as well.
Okay. Okay. Let me get with Sal first to just kind of figure out what it is that we think we want to do and talk about, and then I will come back to the rest of you with kind of a plan. And that will be, I don't even have a name for what that is. Okay. Anything else on, we started with state shelters. Anything else on state shelter?
In the past, we have tended to, a lot of us have been frustrated. We have attempted to address these with various agencies or various, I guess my point is I'm very hopeful that particularly with you on board, and, I think it's really important that we're documenting things, which is great, but I think we need to know who to address our concerns to at the state level, because calling 211 or calling even slightly above that has not really gotten us anywhere. So knowing the proper people to talk to and having the right people to approach them, and you have done a wonderful job in getting us to, or urging us to document things. But just, just being efficient in the way we target some of these things might get us somewhere. So thanks.
Okay. All right. Anything else on family shelters, state shelters, before we finish working on updates? We're at 12:30 now.
I did just want to say I had intermixed my outreach report with that, so.
Okay.
Yeah, Meredith, I don't know if I'm unmuted or not, and this may also be more about outreach, but let me just hold this for outreach, but please call on me for outreach.
Okay. I can just give, I don't think I have much to share from Good Samaritan Haven about overflow shelter. As far as I know, it's been running. It's been kind of varying in capacity, everything from 15 to 20, I'd say, daily, nightly. And so far, at least from our side, has been good, running well. Anything on, I can also share on motels. I know this is a confusing one. So just to give an update on where we're at in kind of the season of motel program. So the state's motel program will expand again on December 1st for winter exception. It still has a lower cap than last year, but a lot of those people who met their 80 days already would potentially be able to move back into a motel room if there's one available for them. And so that's happening in the coming weeks. Brenda Siegel, as well as Good Sam's outreach, motel outreach folks are working on kind of pre-registration with some of those folks, especially the people who.
I'm sorry, pre-registration.
Not
Like
a pre-registration. It's more like Brenda is helping the people who Good Samaritan Haven and the faith communities have kind of helped maintain their motel rooms. So we've paid for motel rooms. Are because of the level of vulnerability those people experience there, we have a little bit of extra support working with the state to make sure that they stay continuously sheltered without a loss. And so I shouldn't call it pre-registration. That's not really what it is. It's just making sure their paperwork is up to date mostly.
Well,
So
pre-registration, I'd like to pre-register a bunch of people. Just
okay, I'll let you know. I wanted to also I wanted to share this because we haven't shared this broadly. I got some new numbers from the faith community, but also from our team at Good Samaritan Haven. So as part of so in mid-September, when people started falling out of their 80 days, Good Samaritan Haven started just maintaining motel rooms for people who were particularly vulnerable, people with pretty intense medical and needs mostly, and families with children. So far, we have been able to shelter 62, that's in total number of individuals who would have otherwise been exited from motels. So that's 62 individuals who didn't end up outside since mid-September that have been collectively supported through Good Samaritan Haven and through some of our faith community partners. And there are an estimate of about 36 people that we've been working with and tracking who due to their 80 days are outside and very vulnerable, but we don't have the capacity or the means to get them back in. So we'll be working with those folks to get into the motel program as it opens as well. So that's just to note that there's been a lot of community support, local donors in Montpelier who have helped with that, faith communities who have done specific appeals to make sure that people stay inside, and with real acknowledgement that the motel program is imperfect, very imperfect, but it's shelter. And so that's the choice that we've made to do. And Zach and Dawn, I can connect with you on anything you might want to know, and OSA as well, in the lead up to that December 1st, so we can help as many people get back into a room as possible and in a timely way.
I think the other thing that this task force may want to look at down the road, but not too far down the road, is April. We're going to see, at least in one of my situations, at least 5 months of a gap occurring there. So, and I worry that the same fundraising going on right now might not occur. I don't know. Sorry, a little damper on everybody today.
And I have not made sense of what the legislative changes really mean to what will happen in April. So I don't know if there's anybody who has really been following the post-election and expectations. I have not been, but this would be a good time to hear if anybody has information about that. I see some hands up, Tori and Dawn. I don't know if those are just hands from before or not.
No, it's a current hand. This is a current, this is not why I raised my hand, but with regard to the election, this came up, I think, at the HHAB meeting a week or two ago, and I may have some notes about that, or if I don't have notes about it, I can get them. Because that was one of the themes that was on the table, the impact of the election. The thing I wanted to say about this is about community outreach is I have been encouraged. There was the article in the Bridge, and then there were a couple of very heated things that people wrote on, very stirring things up that people wrote on Front Porch Forum. And I wrote back individually very calmly to one of the people. And one of the things, you know, and said, no, people aren't ignoring this. People are responding, I think, appropriately to what happened. But one of the things I have been encouraging people to do, and if Dawn and Zach and Meredith think this is really the wrong thing to do, I'd like to know, is that when something like this happens, I think it's better, you know, if the adult had spoken directly, or had gone with a couple of other people if that felt safer, and had spoken directly with the people and said, you know, don't talk to my kid that way. You know, you're not allowed to talk to my kid that way. I think that kind of just calling in and calling out on the part of the community, it sounds like a step that didn't happen. And it's a kind of really civil thing that we do with one another every day. So
Can I just clarify, you're talking about the bike path, or what are we talking
no, I'm
about?
talking about the article about the bike path, and then the Front Porch Forum things about the bike path and the planning commission.
All right.
So anyway, it's just the other thing is back for a moment to the shelter exemptions. I think that Bev and I, with the licenses that we have, maybe if you're having trouble getting a doctor's appointment, we may be able to sign off on those. So just keep that in mind as a resource. And that's all I had to say about it.
All right. Thank you for that. And I did want to respond, if you don't mind, Meredith.
Yeah, go ahead.
As you know, we met with the planning commission co-chairs, and you know, we had a pretty productive meeting there. Obviously, more to do, but we all agreed pretty much that, you know, we needed to work together and all that. Am I right, Meredith? I hope I got that right. But that's, you know, I think it's really interesting because it's one of the dynamics is, you know, once in a while, you know, everybody goes out there, gets a different experience. And, you know, I thought, as I said, we were very productive. And I also think if members from this committee could attend these other committees that are, you know, having a hard time, or they brought up something, but, you know, and that's what I was thinking. I said, wouldn't it be great? And as soon as we found out, like, planning committee was having issues, we wanted to go in with information for them.
Yeah, we left it at that the homelessness task force should be a resource to the planning team, especially as it comes to communications, and trying to kind of thread a very careful needle about how we talk about unsheltered homelessness, and safety in our community. That I think all of us are just have maybe a slightly different lens. And then we could also learn from the planning committee on things that they have ideas about that would be helpful in our community as well. So I wholeheartedly just agree with Zach that we should, to the extent we have time, we should think about just checking in on those meetings. I think most of them are online. Listen in, go back and watch later, and reach out to the other community members who are providing some of this leadership. Did we want to do any other updates? Did outreach want to say anything further?
I don't have anything. I think we covered it.
Yeah, I think we covered anything I can remember right now.
Tori, did you have something specific you wanted to cover in outreach?
No, that was what I said. It's real. All I have to say. I've been concerned about the I think ill-informed back and forth on social media, and I would really like to see more people in the community using the nonviolent strategy of just talking directly with people if they are upset about it.
Thanks.
Yeah, I've been having trouble hearing what Tori says, but we can probably catch up offline or something.
Yeah. Anything else in updates, any specific updates about city council, about any legislation or any other additional community support? Those are the ones maybe we haven't addressed totally yet.
Excuse me, I just wanted to reply to Don and Tori just now.
Go
Thank
ahead.
you. Sorry, Meredith. Just one more thing on that. Yes, it's a fine and precarious balance. And some of us come from privileged backgrounds and other us had to struggle. And so we all arrive at this place with a different perspective. And I'm just hearing in Tori's advice, the encouragement of community, because yes, that is the ideal way, is to have conversations. I recently have been prosecuting bullies in downtown Montpelier. And for me, that has been my chosen route. What I mean by prosecuting is restraining orders and dealing with police. I hope that's not violent. But it certainly isn't ideal. But I just wanted to share with you that is at the base of my anxiety, is that preference for police. And that is a reality of Montpelier, Vermont today for me, is that I'm rather quite afraid of bullies in downtown. Thank you for listening.
This is Zach in response briefly, Meredith. I'm concerned about, and I had heard this at City Council a little bit last week. I guess I'm concerned with the follow through of such prosecutions if they occur at all, because there's no, it's up to the state's attorney to push those charges once the police do something with it. And I'm not, derailing. I had heard someone quoting the disorderly conduct charge last week in frustration. And I agree this is getting out of hand, but I don't know where we go. So I just wanted to say that. Thanks.
Thanks, Zach. Any other updates folks want to share? Any announcements? I will share as an announcement that if you all haven't seen it already, I wasn't able to attend city council last night, but the city council did pass a legislative agenda, and there was a conversation about that last night with legislators. And I think if you haven't read the legislative agenda, it certainly speaks to the work we're doing here. So my announcement is go read that. I'll send a link to it. Good for us to know what's happening there. Any other announcements? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn with the thanks of everybody for their hard work. Thank you.
Absolutely. Second?
Second it.
Second, can I see a raise of hands to adjourn? Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time. See you next time.
Thanks, Meredith.
Thank you.